We will be talking about first-party data, the key to relevancy in e-commerce. The impending death of the cookie and the changing regulatory landscape has forced brands to truly understand their consumers and their preferences on a one-to-one level. As brands collect more first-party data, they are able to improve the customer experience by personalizing e-commerce pre- and post-purchase. This personalization effort improves profitability by making the experience more relevant and by enabling retailers to provide customers with relevant offers at checkout. I'm happy to introduce Ashley Firmstone, the SVP of Customer Success at Rokt, and Dovas Zakas, the General Manager at Every Plate HelloFresh.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. We're excited to chat with you. I'm really excited to have Dovas here with me. I've worked at Rokt for 7 years, and the company has only been around for 10, so quite some time. And Dovas was one of our early customers, so we're friends from a long time ago, huh?
That's right. I came to the US in 2016, and actually, Ashley and Rokt were one of the first partners that I closed a deal with, so that was perfect.
Yeah. So really excited to share with you guys trends that we've seen in e-commerce, dig into HelloFresh and Every Plate and what they're seeing across the landscape. We also want to thank Dovas because he did step in for us. Sazan Huck, the VP of Growth at HelloFresh, unfortunately his family got a little sick yesterday, so you might see different names on the program, but Dovas kindly stepped in for us, so we appreciate it.
My pleasure. I always wanted to know what it feels like to be a substitute teacher. So I just forgot my glasses.
Great. So I want to start off pretty broad and just really understand what are some of the trends that you've been seeing across the past year and a half, pre- and post-pandemic across your customers.
Right. So overall, I think it's not a secret that the pandemic period, despite being so bad for everyone, really gave all e-food companies a greater purpose. So we're really proud at HelloFresh to serve many more households, and we're very proud to not just be a meal kit company, but rather be something that people can rely on every single week. So I'm actually very interested. How many of people in the audience actually got onto HelloFresh during the pandemic? Maybe a bit higher? Okay, so around 10%. How many people have tried HelloFresh? Okay, so it's great that we have a gift card to sign up new customers. There's still more people we can onboard. And definitely during the pandemic, we grew so fast that now we have very, very high targets to meet to make sure we continue growing. So one very big shift in our strategy that happened before the pandemic is that from being just one single brand, HelloFresh, we decided to really expand our brand portfolio. And now we have HelloFresh, Every Plate, Green Chef, and Factor as part of our portfolio, really serving different customer needs. And all that came from first-party data. So we're going to get into that in a second.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I think that that's a great strategy. We've been seeing a lot of different companies kind of diversify their product offering throughout that. Before we get into the data piece, I want to stay on just general trends because I think we've heard a lot from different brands and companies. We were at a dinner last night talking about every company right now is seeing different consumer behaviors occur, right? Some companies are seeing consumers go back to entertainment and travel and shifting away, and it's really hard to kind of predict what's going to happen in the second half of the year. I think a lot of people were surprised by Q1, and especially even the last 8 weeks have been quite crazy with inflation and everything impacting the consumer behavior. So how are you guys predicting the remaining half of this year and even into 2023?
Right. Very good question. So in general, with all the different things that are happening in the market and some talks of what's happening in the next 6 months to a year, we are actually very well positioned because we have that brand diversity. Mm-hmm. So having Every Plate, which is our more value brand, really puts us into a place that in case there's higher food inflation or there's higher any sort of like turbulence in the market, people can always go from one brand to another, either downward or upward, and go to a more premium branch of our business. In terms of this Q1 being lower for a lot of D2C brands, is that it's the first Q1 that we have post iOS 14 update. So I think often when talking to senior leadership, people forget mentioning that.
Yeah.
And for HelloFresh across all our brands, we definitely feel the burden of Facebook and some other channels being not the same as they used to be a year ago. But the great thing about our business is that, I guess, since the very early on, we have been very diversified in terms of what sort of marketing channels we have. So the fact that our Facebook CACs have increased, we're then just shifting the investment into some other channels that we see really good trends and good efficiency.
Yeah, no, it's nice to have that variety for the customer, to be able to shift them from brand to brand. I think we've heard a lot today that retention and loyalty, that's the theme, right? Every customer is worth that much more, and to retain them is ever more important at this point in time because customer acquisition costs are increasing.
Yeah.
So I love that you guys are focused on the loyalty and retention piece. What programs and other things are you doing aside from just the cross-brand pollination? What are you doing to retain customers this year? So
generally, topics about LTV, talking about how to improve customer profitability. I kind of geek out, and my substitute teacher personality really comes out. We have some folks in the audience that are from HelloFresh, so they might be scared when I bring up all these different things and I bring out all the calculations and all the different formulae. But one main thing that I really preach is the fact that when thinking about customer profitability and overall business growth and driving both top line and bottom line, a lot of marketers either focus on driving CAC efficiencies or really focusing on LTV. The way we kind of flip it or expand the whole conversation is that CAC by itself is an irrelevant measure because it's either too expensive, either too cheap, depending on the other part of the business, which is the customer lifetime value. However, if customer value is lowish and the CAC is very, very low and the difference is high and you can acquire so many different customers, then the calculation of the two is what's important.
Right.
So really the three important things is not just looking at LTV, but rather looking at LTV minus CAC and then multiplying that by the customers, and all of them are equally important. Now, a lot of people know that they want to focus on LTV, but a lot of people don't know what that actually means. And retention, surprise, surprise, is only a third of what actually is going into an LTV calculation. So it's equally a third going to retention, a third going into average order value, AOV, and then a third going into margin. So one really important thing that we do is that we do not isolate just focusing on one thing and expecting everything to change.
Yep.
Rather, we focus on the metrics that are driving LTV.
Yeah.
And cross-functionally, we're prioritizing all the projects but based on AOV improvement, retention improvement, and margin improvement. Because what's really interesting, and that's the very simple mathematics that a substitute teacher can actually teach, is the fact that improvement in 10% in any of these metrics is an equal weight for improvement of the overall LTV. So it doesn't matter whether you improve 10% retention, 10% AOV, or 10% margin, the overall LTV is actually improving by 10%. So what if you can isolate those KPIs and you can focus on the initiatives that really drive each of the components separately? And that is really where your first-party customer data is coming in to really drive what you need to focus on to improve those metrics.
Yeah, I love that you have those different points of focus to improve the overall value of customers. I think we see the same thing. We work across the e-commerce transaction moment, as we term it. So. Yeah. I think it's important to unlock first-party data and to get that right across the customer journey. And I know that you guys are doing a lot of unique things for that customer path to, like you said, increase the order value, but also, upsell them into different programs.
Yep.
Want to talk about, data in general. That's the session title. So first-party data is becoming increasingly more important, obviously, with the death of the cookie. Apple iOS, as you mentioned, has caused some challenges. How are you guys placing the importance on data, and how are you unlocking your customer data to do that across the site and across your other channels?
Definitely. So I guess having the movement from the previous marketing world into the post-iOS 14 marketing world gave us a really good glimpse on what it's like if the retargeting is not as powerful as it used to be. So even now, retargeting is not as big of a portion of our marketing mix as it used to be,
Yeah.
and we're still continuing to grow. So that was one thing that changed tremendously, and we had to innovate and really pivot some of the marketing channels. One very big tactic that we use is that we capture customer first-party email, first-party data, primarily email, very early in the funnel. So that allows us to pass hashed emails back to some of the platforms and really retarget those people directly. So that's been something that really helped us. But in terms of higher level growing the business, one thing, and what I mentioned, the ecosystem of brands that we built, the 4 brands that we have now, is actually based on the insight that we got from our customers. So when people see that order rates are not improving or people canceling the business,
Right.
a lot of people think that it's a big problem, yet we saw it as an opportunity. So people told us they can't afford HelloFresh. What we did, we launched a value business, EveryPlate. People said that they want to cook less frequently. So we acquired a company called Factor, which is focusing on really high nutritious meals that are ready in 2 minutes. And then people said that they want to change their diet. They want to go into vegan options, paleo, keto. Then we acquired Green Chef, which is the specialized meal kit that we were able to really grow. So that sort of insight that we found is really driving the overall business expansion, and that's something that absolutely any company could do. In terms of our other most important thing of the business is that we can create different website experiences, but in the end, the product is food.
Yep.
So if the food is not good, then people are not going to come back, and in the end, we will not have a business. So one thing we do is that we are very, very rigorous in terms of how we are capturing customer data. So 3 main touch points would be NPS survey, both at the beginning of the experience and then frequently after people will continue ordering. We're using AI vendor that really helps us go through all the text and help us with positive sentiments and negative sentiments. That really helps us focus on the right things.
Yeah.
Then every single box is associated with a recipe survey. So people leave feedback about what recipes they liked and didn't like. And that really helps us prioritize what we should do in terms of customizing the menu, adding new meals, retiring some meals, shifting to a certain preference, and so on. And we talk about one-to-one relationship.
Yeah.
So that sort of insight into what works, what doesn't work, as well as addition of preferences, filtering, sorting, collections. All of that really helps people to create what they want. And that is custom to the customer, and we don't really enforce. We don't really tell people you should get this. Rather, we encourage them to get it for themselves.
Yeah, I think from the Rokt's point of view, we typically see companies are challenged to create a true one-to-one experience, and a lot of times they're left making assumptions or segmenting customer groups. But what I really love about what you guys do is you're taking in that feedback and then adjusting that per the individual experience as they go through the site. So I think what that does is creates trust with your brand. And ultimately, I think what we've seen from research is consumers are okay with sharing their data as long as it's being used in a relevant way to improve their customer experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's awesome that you guys are able to unlock that to create that for them. I want to kind of go back to the fact that you mentioned just increasing acquisition costs, and you talked about using data on site. How are you using that in targeting methodology and tracking ROI from different channels?
Yep. So overall, we have close to 15 or so different marketing channels. Some of them had to be with more broader targeting because of the iOS 14 changes.
Yeah.
Some of them are very targeted based on audiences, based on the first-party information that we have. Generally, the ROI is tracked through many different ways, and we try to compare all the different sources in order to really understand what's the truth, because every attribution method, every sort of methodology has its own limitations. So since the beginning, we were able to really quantify channel performance on a very granular level, because every single channel has its own voucher code. Such a, like marketing 101 type of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that was something that really helped us prioritize channels that drive the best immediate return versus the lowest. And then we go to the other alternative attribution methods to really understand the channels that don't drive immediate return. And for those, we primarily use checkout survey, which really allows us to understand what percent of customers signed up with a certain channel versus they based on the voucher code versus what they said that they heard about HelloFresh and other brands from.
Right.
So that really helps us drive clear bridge between what the voucher says and the checkout service says. We also have a data science team that focuses on our marketing mix model. So that is custom per brand, and we try to really figure out like what are the channels that we don't really see come through in other attribution methods, but we do see really change in behavior and change in ROI once we increase those channels. Primarily for upper funnel channels, that's the main way we track things.
Yeah.
And then finally, we try to blend the numbers that we see in those three attribution methods with platform data that we see. And then most of the time, it's consistent. So you actually see at least 2 or 3 attribution methods show you a similar story. Sometimes one of them is saying something very drastically different. But there's also an opportunity to dive deeper and find some uncut gems.
Yeah, I think someone made a joke at the last session around like 3 or 4, how many different marketing attribution systems you use. It sounds quite complex.
Definitely in our case.
And it's not getting any easier. So I know you just mentioned that you're building out kind of their data analytics team, data science team, and you're doing surveying across the site. Are you guys doing this all in-house alone? Are you investing in particular areas to build out those capabilities, or are you evaluating other partners?
So in general, throughout the 10 plus years of HelloFresh, we've always been very lucky that a lot of things actually come out of the box built by our engineering and data teams. That was the reason why we scaled so quickly and across all different markets, is because we didn't just launch in one country, we launched across 5 or 6 countries, and then different problems that the business would have across marketing, ops, product would be consistent trends across the world, and we would be able to solve them very quickly and apply the fixes across the other markets. So that really gave us a competitive edge, and it's continuing to be the case for a lot of things, including vendor integrations, including building stuff in-house, testing things, and just applying best practice across our countries as well as different brands. In terms of current trends, we are always trying to innovate across every single channel, across every single level of the organization. That is not just some innovation team's job, it's actually embedded in everyone's job. It's part of our OKRs within teams. So it's really important that everyone is talking to various vendors and thinking outside of the box. We are generally very open to testing things, and we're very fair evaluating the performance and seeing whether there's an overall lift in any of the metrics that I discussed before, AOV, retention margin, or improvement in conversion rate driving CAC down, and or overall customers added. So all the things are the things we look at, and based on that, we evaluate and scale vendors. And in general, we have been very curious to test new things and not just go through like a very, very rigorous vetting process that delays something to start in 6 months. We try to be pretty nimble as long as the vendor is, the business case makes sense, as long as there's no issues with, I don't know, the past of the vendor. We, of course, go through all the compliance requirements, and we're very happy to onboard new vendors and hopefully improve performance.
Great. I know we were just talking before we came on stage. How do you use the different brands to kind of test and evolve and roll out? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more around, when you're testing new tech partners, what are you looking at that are the indicators and that allow you to then expand to the additional sites?
Yeah, totally. So HelloFresh is the brand that is currently, I guess, a household name versus the other 3 brands that are still a bit less mature. So when testing vendors, when testing different functionalities, sometimes we choose the other brand to test first, and that way we can be, I guess, a bit more lenient on the brand risk profile, and that way we are able to be quick to see what's working, what's not working, and then roll it out for HelloFresh. And HelloFresh, because it's such a big traffic driver, we're able to do a lot of different optimizations and the overall conversion optimization that we can get across the globe, and then roll that out onto the other brands that we have.
Amazing. So we're coming up on time. So any parting advice, for the audience around unlocking first-party data and how critical that is for their business and what they can be doing today to unlock that? Yeah.
So I'd say some of the things that I mentioned, so metrics and breaking them down and really not focusing on one thing, but rather on things across those metrics is how you're going to build a successful business. That is something that not a lot of people talk about, but I found that to be the reason why every plate that launched 4 years ago is a 9-figure annual run rate business, is because we focus on everything at the same time, not just on one isolated thing. In terms of another big opportunity, is that when some people say that people are canceling, people are leaving, this is the reason why people are unhappy with the business. That is a challenge that is very quickly translated into an opportunity. And if you're able to really capitalize on that, that's how you really grow your marketing mix and product portfolio. And that is something that has helped us tremendously. And now in just a few years, we went from a single brand into four brand company. And over the globe, there's even more brands that we're launching.
Yeah.
So that'd be my parting advice. Hopefully you'll all do it. And then next year when we meet, you're going to have more products and brands that you have launched.
Great. And yes, hopefully we'll get some new HelloFresh or Every Plate or Factor or all the brands. We want you guys to sign up. Some of you guys have some gift cards we've distributed. We also have some Rokt chargers for you guys. There's a charging station in the back of the Discovery Lounge towards the left. So make sure you guys come back and see us. But thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.